explain to you how I process making a video. When I first heard Orphan 2 was coming out, I was like, I don't know how they're gonna do that. But this is a great excuse to talk about that first movie, because that first movie is a hidden gem, and if you watched my review the other day, thank you. But now with this movie, I did not have high expectations, because it came out on Paramount Plus and in theaters. There's barely any marketing for it, so I really figured this movie was gonna suck. But actually, this movie is very awesome in its own way. Orphan First Kills stars Isabel Fuhrman and Julia Stiles, and is about after escaping Estonian, Esther travels to America by impersonating the missing daughter of a wealthy family. Isabel Fuhrman is 25 years old and she is 5'3", and 13 years ago, Orphan came out in 2009, and now we are in 2022 to talk about the prequel/sequel with her returning as Esther. Now, if you have not seen the first Orphan, I am really sorry, but I have to talk about the famous twist of the first movie. So if you've not seen it, I am sorry. 3, 2, 1. Esther, the character, is not a little girl. She's a 33-year-old woman who is a psychopath, but she just has a disorder that makes her look like a little girl. So it's kind of funny to think that Isabel Fuhrman is 25 years old and playing this character, who the character is a older woman at looking like a little girl. So it kind of matches her in real life now to play this character. Isabel Fuhrman returning as Esther is my biggest praise, because after 13 years, since she was 11 years old all the way up to now, I bet she was pretty excited to come back to be this character, because she is so good in this role. Seriously, it's really cool to see her, and it's a prequel, so now we get to see a lot more of her character, and I can't imagine what she had to do with this character, and what she wanted to like really let the audience learn about her. Like, I bet it was really exciting to return, and she does a really good job. It was really cool to see her in this role again. And Julia Stiles as this mother character, very good in this movie. And with her character and her family, seeing that their daughter is returning after 4 years of missing, to see Esther come in this family, and all of us that have seen that original know shit's gonna go down, and it does. But obviously, it's really just the setting, which the first movie had a better setting, if you ask me. It was well lit, the cinematography was better than the first movie, and the directing. This movie is actually directed by the guy who did The Boy, which, The Boy is not a good movie, if you ask me. But in this movie, he does a pretty good job. There is some really nice looking shots, some really nice cinematography, and he gets a good performance from everyone. Seriously, this movie, even though on Paramount Plus, it's good performances. Everyone seemed like they really cared about the script and the story. The biggest benefit for this movie has to be that the secret is out. Yes, the movie begins with her in this asylum, basically, and it's explaining to everyone who hasn't seen the first one what's going on here, which I guess was needed since the movie's 13 years later. But listen, for a prequel, I seriously say you could watch this movie without watching the first one. I say watch the first one because I think it's a better movie, and it's better to not know the twist. And this movie, it's kind of like out in the open the whole movie. And that's where the biggest thing I say gets a little wonky, is because this whole movie, an hour-and-a-half movie, Isabel Fuhrman, her performance is shot from shoulder to shoulder upward, and every time it's a long shot, it's a double. It's a actual little girl, and it's the back of her head, and we never see her face. It happens a lot in this movie, but I respect the directors, the cinematographer, and everyone that made the movie, because they didn't want to use CGI. They didn't want to do all the CGI young face stuff. I respect that. But I cannot lie, there are times in this movie when I'm looking at her, I'm like, she's not a little girl. If you look at her, just how her face is, you can just tell. And I know in the movie it's supposed to be that way because she's an older woman, but I'm just saying, as someone that's seen the first movie, it's very off-putting. But once you get used to it, you get used to it. But I mean, I did laugh a few times every time the camera literally is panning on a little girl walking, and you never see her face. It's always the back of her head, and then you see Isabel Fuhrman's face. I'm guessing she was on her knees, and then I saw a few behind the scenes where Julia Stiles had like really big heels on to make her look super tall and her short. It's a little goofy looking, especially if you know the behind the scenes, but if you know none of that, it might be okay for you. Now, the real kicker to this movie is the twist. Now, I'm gonna say this, I am not gonna spoil anything about this movie, but the first 40 minutes is for sure like her coming into a new home and her doing her little thing, her Esther stuff, messing things up, trying to be a little girl and just do little things to other people and make them look bad, and she's the innocent one, yada yada. And I was like, okay, I'm in it, all that kind of stuff. And then something happens. Something happens. The movie changes. It literally, the movie flips over and it's like, it's completely different movie. And from that point forward, I was entertained. Very much entertained. Like, the dialogue got better, the movie got more interesting. It seriously became a way better movie. If you watch this movie, you know exactly the moment I'm talking about when the whole movie just changes. And I really liked it because I didn't expect it. And for a prequel/sequel to do something different, that's what they needed to do. And they did. And I respect that. This movie took a lot of risk. Being 13 years late, changing the story, and having things be more prequel-esque into the original movie, very much fun stuff they could play with. And they do that for this movie, and I enjoyed it. Seriously, this movie's very entertaining. Yeah, there's some really bad CGI-looking snow, and the third act is this big house on fire, blood, all that kind of stuff, CGI blood, CGI fire, CGI everything. I'm like, okay, it's blah. But I can say, I had low expectations, and I walked out saying, you know what, for an Orphan prequel, this was a lot better than I expected. I'm gonna give Orphan First Kill a B-. It's currently playing in select movie theaters, and it's on Paramount Plus right now if you want to go and watch it. I recommend it, but I will say watch the first one because it's just a way better movie and the twist really hits. This one is a really good appetizer, even though it's like the prequel, so it's enjoyable, but I liked it. And if you guys enjoy this movie review, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone.